Okay, let's try this again. It's going to be take 2 for sourdough starter. So this time I've got a recipe that I'm following. I'm using Elaine's recipe. I'll leave a link down below where you can find it rather than a packet mix. The recipe has at least a week before it's ready to be used, and potentially up to 2 weeks. So going to be a lot slower process this time, but fingers crossed it will work. It also obviously gets discarded a lot more frequently. So I'll be able to maybe try some other discard recipes along the way. It's also warmer as it's later in the year, so potentially that will help as well with making it grow a little bit better. So I've written down my instructions to be following, so what I'm doing on each day. It's in my little Matthew's Cotwold flour notebook that I got when I went to their soil stone sourdough event a couple of years ago. I've also got some spoons this time to try rather than my silicone scooper or spatula that I was using last time. Sourdough starter sets really hard, so Elaine recommends using metal utensils when stirring, and obviously to rinse them off straight away as well. I'm using strong white bread flour. This Wessex Mill one is one that's at my local farm shop. I picked some up there just because I hadn't been to my refill shop in a while when I needed some bread flour. Some other ones that I'd potentially try out would be obviously Matthew's Cotswold flour, but I haven't got any plain flour at the moment. I've just got some of their kind of seeded and oats ones. So for day 1, forgetting what day we're on. So for day 1, we're doing a 50 gram mix, and then it will reduce slightly as we go forwards. So let's get 50 grams into my container. Oh, look at that! 50 grams on the dot. The water, I couldn't see anything that tap dripping. Anything that kind of stipulated the temperature of water. I know a lot of recipes will say like tepid water when you're making bread or sourdough. So I've kind of gone for tep-ish. So went slightly over on the water. So I just try and do it as an even mix. I've added in another 2 grams of flour, so they're even to start with. And we will go from there. Time to stir it up. So I'm trying to mix it all in. No, still got some at the bottom. So I've mixed it all up, but what I need to remember to do this time is scrape down the sides. So that was the issue from my last one. The sides went mouldy, so I then couldn't keep growing it. So I'm going to use the other spoon to help scrape it down, scrape the bits off the spoons, and then I will cover it and leave it until tomorrow. So that is day 1. I've scraped it as best as I can, both with my fingers and also spoons. The length of this jar might prove to be a bit problematic. Definitely first time round it was, so we will see. If I was doing bigger quantities, or depending on how big it grows, it might still be useful. But yeah, we will see if this is a useful vessel or not. Or not necessarily a useful vessel, a practical vessel for sourdough starters as we go along. So I'm going to leave this on my dining room table, I believe. I think that's where I'm going to want to leave it. I think that's where I'm going to want to leave it, on my dining room table, and then we will come back to it tomorrow night to give it another feed. So it's now day 2 of my new starter that I'm trying to grow. So today's instructions are to add in 30 grams of flour and 30 grams of water. Obviously mix it, stir it, cover it like I did yesterday. So let's do that. So I've weighed out everything already. That's what my starter is looking like from yesterday. That's just one day or 24 hours. So I think I'm going to do like I did yesterday, which was add the flour in first. And 30 grams of water. And then dew. And then we stir away. This is what day 2 looks like with it all mixed up. So I'm going to recover it with a little cloth lid, and I'm going to pop it back on the dining table. So day 3 is a repeat of day 2 of adding 30 grams of flour and 30 grams of water. There are some bubbles starting to appear around the edges, not necessarily on the top. So I'll give you a little look to see what that looks like. And then I will add in my next lot. So I've started to get some bubbles coming around the edge, which is definitely something I don't think I had in my first starter. So we will add in the next lot and see how it is tomorrow. So there's some little bubbles still at the bottom once I have mixed everything in. So we will see you tomorrow for day 4. It's day 4 of sourdough 2.0 and it's looking really good. It's bubbling away as the instructions said, but this is going to be my first discard day. So I need to half it before I then add in the next lot of water and flour to it. And this is what it's looking like. So it's definitely growing up into the jar and it's definitely starting to bubble away. And so I now need to figure out how I'm going to get out half of this without getting the sides too grubby. So I'm going to try and spoon it out. I've got my tea cooking away in the background, so ignore the bubbling away. Looks so good. That looks so much better than my previous starter. So let's see how I get on. I've got this little jam jar that I'm going to try and repurpose to put my discard in. I'm going to try and not make too much of a mess of either jar. So I kind of need to take it down to about 150 on the marker. If I can try and get a big gulp, I'm going to make a big mark on the side of that jar. So I'm going to need to be good with my scraping down because I don't want the jar to go mouldy again. So I think I just need to get a little bit more. Down to about 200, so I just need a little bit more to come out. Without, God, I'm making an awful state of this jar. Okay. Treat it like pasta, maybe? No. Oh, God. Ooh. Okay, I reckon that's roughly down to half. I will have to do a good clean up of the jar though once I'm finished. The flour in, add in the water. I'm cooking pasta, so it's the water and the pasta bubbling away. So I've added in the 30 grams of flour and 30 grams of water, so same amount. I'm going to stir it in. I did use a little bit of paper towel to try and wipe it down as much as I could. I didn't want to risk getting too close to my actual starter. And then I've got my little jar of discard. It's got a nice little bubble there. So I'm going to put this in the fridge for the moment with the lid on. And then I might see if I can find someone who wants a little bit of sourdough starter to have a go over themselves perhaps. So this is day 5 of my sourdough 2.0. So I've got that with me here. So there are some bubbles starting to show round on the side still. Yesterday was our first discard day. That's actually still looking really good in the fridge. So today's job is to feed it 30 grams of flour and water again, and then give it a stir and cover. So let's do that. So today is going to be another discard day. So it's day 6 of my sourdough starter. Assuming that little mark might just be the edge where I scraped it or didn't quite scrape it down yesterday. So I need to discard again about half the amount, and then it's going to be a 30 gram flour and 30 gram of water, just like all the other days. So I'm going to try and still fill it into this jar, my discard, because I can then potentially offer it out as a gift for someone, or for them to, I guess, have a starter of their own. If not, I will try and use it for a recipe. So have a go at discarding again. So it's probably not quite as bubbly as it was with my first discard day. That felt really quite resistant and bouncy. Try not to make a mess again if I can. Nope. That was very not successful. For either jar, actually, looking at that. That spin at the end and get it all up the jar. So I've just eyeballed half of it, which is obviously getting a little bit harder as I get the gunk up the side. I think I'm going to clean that up. Oh god, it's on the outside as well as the inside. I think I'm going to clean that up once I've added in the flour and water for today. Because, well, knowing me, I'm probably going to make a mess down the bottom as well. I need to scrape that down. Missed some of my jar. So I will say it didn't seem to grow as much, or bubble up as much as it had on the 4th day. But the weather has gone a bit cold at the end of this week. So we've had rain and hail today. So again, temperature might be playing a bit of a part. Let's scrape that down and into it. I think that's all scraped down, so I think I'm going to use my slightly cleaner spoon to try and clear the edges, and then I'll probably get a cloth or bit of paper towel to mop it down again. Thoughts on big jar at the moment? A little bit faffy, to be honest. So I wonder if this kit kind of was encouraging people to do like large quantities of starter, maybe? So I think I'm going to come potentially a cropper again with, like I did last time. I've cleaned it down as best I can, but I've still got sections like here that I'm slightly worried about unless that grows that in a day. And then that pretty much filled up this whole jar now of starter. So if no one wants it, that would probably be enough for me to do a recipe with.
Why is yours runnier than mine?
Because I've been doing mine for longer. So today is actually day 9 of making my sourdough starter. It's been on a little trip. I went back to the parents over the weekend and I obviously wanted to make sure I was still feeding it. So I took it home, took my little jar of discard because I was going to have to discard yesterday. I didn't actually film any clips yesterday just because of what we were doing in the evening. And then I filmed a few clips on day 7 when I got there, but obviously didn't do any chatting. So I will have hopefully inserted the little bit before then from those couple of days. I also got my mum started on a starter. I gave her some of my discard, left her instructions, so we will see how she gets on as well as me. Even with giving her some discard, because I discarded yesterday, I filled up my little jar that I had. So I've actually made some discard cheese scones, which I'll show you in a moment. And with that, reduce down that. And then I just need to feed it today. So technically following the Foodbod Sourdough starter instructions, potentially any day from day 8, the starter can be ready. I don't feel like mine looks as active as it actually did on day 4. So that's why I am still feeding and going through the process. I'm considering potentially in a couple of days time, if it's still like this, I might just feed it with the flour, because I feel like it's quite runny. So I don't know if it's just a bit hungry and it needs more food rather than more liquid. So I might try that. If not, if it's still feeling a bit runny, I might try and take some out, do like a bigger start with it for a loaf, see how that comes out, and just keep going. This is a learning process and it's doing well compared to my last one. So I will show you my cheese scones first, and then we will get on to feeding up the starter. So these are my cheese scones. It's actually a bit of a concoction. The cheese scone recipe that I used in my previous video, when I click on the link, their website doesn't seem to exist anymore, so I don't know if that's disappeared. So this is kind of a bit of a concoction of my own / another one that I found. It's made with water, not milk, because I had no milk. I haven't got any oat powder either to make up some. And then adding in kind of paprika bits, which is what I do with my normal cheese scone recipe. So these are going to be for my lunch, and we will see, or I can feed back tomorrow actually, how they taste. So let's get this off. So it does seem to have, oh, that does seem a bit more bubbly around the edges than it did earlier. But yeah, it just doesn't seem to have that, what I'd class as like a honeycomb texture in it. Do I just feed it flour today? No, I'm going to do flour and water because tomorrow will be a discard day. So then I might then feed it on day, so what's day 9, so day 11 I might just do flour if it's still like this, because I think that's probably that it's hungry and it's too much water in there. But we will keep on with the progress, keep on with the plan. I think I read somewhere on her website like it can take up to 2 weeks to get it to a point where it's active. So we will keep going. So in with the flour, in with the water. So my mum is using a smaller jar, and I think it's definitely a lot cleaner for, or easier for her to keep that clean, just looking at it the last couple of days. She was also using a wet palette knife to help scrape down the sides of her jar. So that's all mixed in. I think I kept it fairly clean today, putting it together. I think that is technically more than she, again, following the instructions on her site, suggests keeping. So we will see. I think I might tomorrow discard and then maybe just feed with the flour, because I think it is a little bit liquidy. I think that's my issue. I think it's probably hungry, and that's why there's not the bubbles coming into it. So we will see you tomorrow, and hopefully either this will be a bit more bubbly or we can get a bit more bubbly in the next couple of days. So today is day 10 of my second sourdough starter. As it's an even day, it will be a discard day. Looking at it, it is getting more bubbles around the top but not around the sides. So I think I'm going to discard, and then I'm going to try and feed it just with the flour today, because I feel like it's quite liquidy and I think that's the issue. So that's what I'm going to try and do. If need be tomorrow, I just go back to the liquid as well, but I want to see if I can get it a bit more active, because I want to try and make another dough. So that's the plan for today. Update on the discard cheese scones from yesterday. They're really good. I think I actually prefer the texture of them to the first set that I did in my other video. I'll link it either up here or down in the description, or both. If you'd be interested in me sharing that recipe on my blog, just let me know in the comments, and I can get that sorted as well. But let's get feeding. So before I obviously feed, I need to discard. So I haven't actually got too much left in my jar after making my scones. So I'm looking to get rid of about half. Ooh, actually, don't know if you can see that or hear that, but that's sounding a bit better. It does have a bit of the stretch, but disappears. So I think I am going to stick with my principle of feeding it just the flour. Oh, it's starting to smell really yeasty as well. That might be weird, but it does. Okay, so let's try and not make too much of a mess with the I think that's about half. So, no, I won't clear that. So, still keeping to the 30 grams of flour, but I'm just going to do the flour tonight. See if that gets my starter going any better. So I stirred it up. Yes, my sides are getting messy again. I need to keep an eye on that. And do my best to keep it down, so we will see. But it's looking a lot thicker now that I've just done the flour. So fingers crossed we will get close to it, but it did seem more of what I was expecting today. So hopefully by not adding too much water, it won't be getting so runny. Fingers crossed we will soon have a starter we can use to make some doughs. I've got my discard, so that's going to be going back in the fridge. Probably when I make another batch of scones, either at the weekend or middle-ish next week. So the batch made about 8, so that will do me about a week and a half for lunches. So I'll use that probably for another one. So we will come back tomorrow and see where we're at. So we are day 11, and I think we are getting there almost with the starter to be able to make a dough. So last night I just fed it. It's pretty much doubled in size, seeing as yesterday was a discard day. And there's a lot more bubbles around the edge. So my decision today is whether I do water and flour to feed it, which I think I might do because it does seem quite thick. But I think I'm going to get the texture when I spread it, scoop it, stir it, as I'd expect that the starter is almost ready. So I think I'm going to do both today, because tomorrow's then going to be a discard day, and then make the decision how it looks tomorrow if I then just go flour again tomorrow. But I might be able to make a dough over the bank holiday, or a loaf over the bank holiday all soon. So yeah, looking promising. So have a little look, little gander. So there's not too much on the surface, but I'm hoping it smells. Oh yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay, so very excited. So I would say that the fact that it actually doubled in size as well might mean that the starter's ready, but not really got time to fold and do everything tonight, so I will feed it and then we will go for a loaf in a couple of days' time. Okay, so doing 30 flour, 30 water. which I probably maybe shouldn't do if we're not needing it, but I'm still going to feed it. I want to try and keep it alive, which might be the wrong thing, but we will go with it. And if not, I'll at least have a discard for another batch of scones. Okay, that's all stirred in. I think it's day 12 now. It's got a really good bubble on the top. I don't know if you can see from there. And it has got bubbles around the edges, but they are quite small. So I think it's ready when it grows and technically has the bubbles for 3 days on the trot from feeding. I think this would be day 2 of bubbles. So it is a discard day. So hopefully we'll have the same texture as we had yesterday. When we stir it, we'll discard and feed. If it does the same tomorrow, we can potentially start to make a loaf tomorrow or the next day. So let's get going. So I'm going to do a close-up hopefully of the texture. Oh, yep. So that's what it should hopefully look like. So we're very close, I think, to be able to at least try for an accessible dough. So gonna discard out. I might need another tub because I think my jar is actually fairly full. So yeah, my discard jar's fairly full. So I'll get rid of as much as I can and then feed it. I've done water and flour for today. I think I've done about half. My discard jar is very, very full now, so I might need to try and find out some other recipes to try that with. So I am still really liking my cheese scones that I did with my load of discard the other day. So in goes the flour, in goes the water. So very repetitive, but it's about getting started, which is good. So it's getting in the habit. And then we mix to combine. And we're all fed up for another day. So we will see how it grows tomorrow. And then hopefully we'll be able to do some sourdough soon. So we are day 12 on sourdough starter take 2 journey, and I think we're there because I think it's grown and bubbled 3 days on the trot, which means I think it's ready for a loaf. I won't be starting a loaf today purely time-wise. I've not got time to do all the folds and recipes that all the folds the recipe suggests to do for it. So thinking I might leave it and then I'll discard and then feed it on the day I want to do the loaf. I discarded yesterday. Yeah, so I might discard and then feed it prior to then making a loaf. So I think it's getting on the edge. Only thing I need to keep an eye on is obviously my edges. I don't want them to go mouldy like my last one did, which I don't think any of them are, but I need to keep an eye on it. So I might put the silicone lid that I've got from this jar, pop it in the fridge after this, but I'm going to give you a little look to see what it looks like texture wise, because if it's still the same texture then I think it's ready. Okay, so reveal time. Yeah, I think that's ready. So I think I'm going to put the tight lid on it. And pop it in the fridge because I don't have a chance to start a loaf or do a loaf for a couple of days' time. So I will, I think, cover it and then discard and feed when I want to do a loaf, and then it should hopefully bubble and come back up to this stage. So I think starter journey is finished. I think we've got a live one. I've still not actually named my starter, so if anyone's got any suggestions, please feel free to pop it in the comments. I know they always say that's like one of the first things you should do is to name your starter, Part of me thinks it might or should be maybe something beginning with S because it's a sourdough. But please feel free to let me have some suggestions. I've swapped its little hat to the little red one with this silicone one, so that's like the tight lid. The recipe suggests when you want to kind of make it go dormant and sleep. So I'm going to pop it in the fridge. I'll probably check it over the next couple of days just to make sure it's still looking okay. And then I will probably start the next video when I'm actually making a loaf. So subscribe, follow along to see how my next sourdough loaf turns out. The last one wasn't very successful. If you want to see how that came out, you can always look back on my sourdough from scratch series to find out from my first couple of videos. See ya, bye.